the sense that I'm an empath, and so I feel what people feel. When I sit down with my clients, that allows me to really, sometimes I'm like, no, you're nervous. Why are you anxious about this question? Or, let's go deeper because I know that there is another answer. I really take the branding process in a much deeper, powerful way.
Hola y bienvenidos. Welcome to Mole Mama Cooking with Love. You're about to join us for our weekly adventure where we chat with entrepreneurs, chefs, food bloggers, and others who are helping us to connect, to be inspired, and to learn. And from Mother Teresa, spread love everywhere you go and let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. This quote is my favorite all-time quote, and it's so appropriate, especially for tonight's show. The woman that we're about to speak with, all of her Instagram feeds, her website is all about elevating us. So if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to check her out. Go over to her Instagram feed if you can right now. It's Cafe Con Pam podcast. And so not only is she talking about all the amazing guests, but like I said, lots and lots of inspiration. She is an intuitive brand builder, a podcaster, and a speaker. Before I continue, her name is Pam Covarrubias, which I almost forgot to say because I'm so excited to talk to her. And she is a certified crystal healer and a recovering procrastinator. She primarily spends her time elevating small businesses by helping them to develop their brand in intuitive ways while also staying true to their unique story. Throughout her diverse career, Pam learned the importance of branding and positioning in an ever-changing market. She brilliantly blends creativity and practicality to help her clients achieve success. Pam's mission is to spread ideas and to move people. So with that, welcome, Pam.
Hi.
So great. Hi, it's so great to have you here.
I'm excited. I don't usually get on the other side of the mic, so this is a lot of fun.
Here we go. All right. So you on your Instagram feed and your website and even your introduction, I want to know more about what you mean by spread ideas and move people. What is that?
That's funny. Nobody's ever asked me that. I love that. So spread ideas, move people. It started with a self-exploration journey. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember how many years ago. And I would say almost a decade ago, when I was really looking to find my purpose and what I wanted to do. And I really wanted to do that, spread ideas and moving people. I wanted to impact other people to do better, become better, to do just things that make the world a better place. And that's how Spread Ideas started. It actually, my very, very first blog was called She's All In. And that's because I wanted to be all in to one of my top core values is integrity. And so I really wanted to show my integrity in everything that I did. And also as a recovering procrastinator, that was my self accountability to say, okay, if you're going to go for it, you're going to go all in. And then the tagline for that was, she's all in to spread ideas, move people. And then from there, it evolved to just spread ideas, move people, because it wasn't just about her. It wasn't just about she. It was about everyone. And everyone, they're not all she's. So that's
Well,
kind of
I
what
love
it is.
it. I love it because I think it's easy sometimes to come up with ideas and not so hard. It's much harder to actually do something with them. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
So
also, sorry,
go ahead.
one thing that my grandpa would always say was that el sol sale para todos, so the sun comes out for everyone. And that's actually in my very first podcast episode. And that always resonated with me, that to me, it's super important. Like, when people ask me a question, I always want to share it, because that's the point, to spread it and to impact other people. And so that's kind of what, like, in honor of that saying, that's that's one of my that's my purpose, is to spread ideas with people, to make sure that everything I do, it's kind of like this domino effect to make the world a better place. I'm positive, Pam. People always tell me, "You're so positive."
That's beautiful. We need more people like you. We definitely do, especially right now,
Yeah.
more than ever. We need positive people. So, could you tell us about how you started Cafe Con Pam? I love that name of your podcast.
Yes,
How did that
totally.
get going?
Well, it started when I was still in my corporate job. I was traveling a lot, going to a lot of client meetings, and in all of this airport travel, I've always wanted to keep learning. I'm a forever student of life, and at the time, audiobooks were not that well. They existed, but they were expensive, and so I started listening to podcasts. And I love interview based podcasts because it's almost like it's essentially like you're in the room with those two people, right? And so what I found myself is that I was loving those stories. I was loving the interviews. However, didn't see myself in those stories. Those stories did not resonate with me. The people that were being interviewed did not look like me, didn't have a weird sounding name in English. They didn't, it was very just common. It was very white spaces. And the people of color that were being interviewed, the questions they weren't going deep enough for me. And so I was like, well, where are the stories of the people that look, sound like me, that grew up in with immigrant parents? Where are those stories? And I didn't find a place, and so I started it. So that's how Cafe Con Pam started. And I love coffee, and so I wanted the podcast to be that, a conversation. Like, you sit down with a friend and you say, okay, let's catch up. What's been happening with your life? And through a cup of coffee, we talk about their life, they share their story, and we hopefully inspire others to do awesome things and make the world a better place.
That is fantastic. And you've been doing it for quite a while because you have over, I think, 120 episodes right now.
This week is going to be 129. Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Absolutely fantastic.
it's a lot of fun.
One of the, it's, yeah. So one of the other things that I saw is that you call yourself a recovering procrastinator. What is that? What's recovering?
Well,
And how do you become one?
how do you get to the recovery? The recovery is constant.
Yes.
That's funny because I had a client meeting today, and she was like, do you have a 12-step program for that? And I'm like, I should, right? So
You could.
I know I could. So procrastination, I realized that I had an issue with procrastination when I was in college. That was kind of like the first big life bomb that exploded into my face. And it's when I turned in a project and my teacher was like, okay, Pam, this project's really good. Had you put the time and effort, given the 3 months that you had to work on it, or whatever time, I don't remember exactly, but it would have been really good. And so that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, wait, I was that person that was like, I work better under pressure. So how is she saying these things? And that's because I would wait till the last minute. I was that person that was literally in the art building 2 days before the project was due, and it was 24/7. Like, I would now probably just go home to go shower, and I would sleep there. I was that person because, quote quote, I work better under pressure, right? And so when she told me this, though, it was this disappointment, right? And she was a teacher that I really looked up to. And so to me, I was like, okay, so maybe I don't work better under pressure. Maybe I do need to put the time and effort. And I would look at my peers, and they would be there, for a month, certain so many
Hmm.
hours at a time, and they didn't have to do the last minute thing, the rushing, the not sleeping, pulling all nighters like I did. And so that got me thinking, like, maybe I'm not normal. And so I started doing some research and some self-discovery, some healing, and that was a hard time in my life. I had a big depression, so that didn't help. And then when I was in my corporate world, my boss sat me down and he was like, "Why are things not getting done? We give you these tasks because we believe that you can do them. We wouldn't give you this assignment if we didn't know that you could do it. So what's happening? How can we support you with it, right?" And I didn't know what to say because I knew that it was my fault. I mean, I was putting things off. And so those were kind of like the main points in my life that I was like, oof, I almost failed a class and I almost lost my job. Something's happening. So I really started exploring, and I through a lot of healing work, because at the end of the day, procrastination is some type of fear. It's it's us stepping our success. And so I've realized my triggers. I now have much more awareness of when I do it, and I now have a lot more tools than I did before. So that's why I call myself a recovering procrastinator, because while I still want to put things off, I think that's something that humans in general, I mean, naturally you want to sometimes put things off, that I now can identify why I do them. So I hope I answered that question. I don't know if I did.
You did a lovely job answering that question, and I think it's important. I don't think you're the only procrastinator on the
Oh
planet.
no.
So so I think it's good for our listeners, that also might suffer with that. I know I definitely have a period throughout, different periods in my life. It's usually a stress. It's what I do when I'm under
Mm,
stress, usually. But it's amazing that you kind of stopped and you looked at it, you're self-aware, and that you're trying to do something about it. That's fantastic.
yeah, I actually have a quiz that helps you determine what kind of procrastinator you are. It's a lot of fun.
You
Yeah,
do?
it's a lot of
Oh,
fun.
that sounds really cool. So maybe I've misdiagnosed. So probably
Let me know as you take it. Let me know which procrastinator you are. It's a lot of
I
fun.
I would love to know. Okay, and I have to ask you about this because it says that you're also a certified crystal
Oh
healer.
yeah.
Wow, and how do you become certified in it?
I mean, you go take a class and somebody tells you all the basic things about crystals and the more advanced things about crystals. So essentially, I how do we go about this? What can we get? So I grew up with a very spiritual dad, extremely spiritual all my life. And he introduced me to the world of metaphysics and spirituality and chakras and Reiki when I was really, really, really young. And so I've always had this, in my family, people call him crazy, right? Very out there dad. And so I've always had this kind of attunement with my intuition. I wouldn't say more than other people. I've just been more aware. Everyone has that ability to connect with themselves. I'm just more aware because I had a dad that allowed me to do that. And I always grew up really loving rocks and crystals and quartz and all of those, like stones, basically. And so I disconnected from that part of my life for a long time. It's been one of those like beautiful dances that we all have with certain aspects of our life. And so one day I was like, okay, I really love like I feel like I crystals are magical. I mean, they are. They are magical. I can feel their vibration very easily. And so the certification for crystal healing is, it allows me to utilize the vibration of the crystals on humans to help them either heal something that's going on, either regulate some energy or their chakras, the energy that we have ourselves, because we are energy. I mean, we like, even scientifically speaking, we're made of atoms, right? And so crystals have a neutral vibration, meaning humans, we sometimes we meet other people and we're like, oh, that person vibe really. weird. We didn't vibe so much, right? And that's because their energy didn't connect with ours. Just kind of like to put it in plain terms. And so with the crystals don't feed off of that. They don't care. Crystals don't care. They live and they know who they are, and that's what they do. So when I do crystal healing work, I go to my client, and then we check where there are no where they're misaligned, where in their body they're misaligned, and then we place a crystal to allow that energy to be realigned. So we utilize the energy of the crystals to help us get back into our body, into our energy center, and get really aligned again. So how do you get certified? Do you
So
go to
I think
someone?
all that, you go to somebody to
Yeah.
get certified. So thank you for sharing all of that. And I think it's so amazing that you had a father that was so spiritual and a Latino father that was so spiritual and into Reiki. So that is fantastic. I know that when my mother was really sick toward the end of her life, she asked me about Reiki because she was in
Mm,
hospice. And she was very Catholic, but very spiritual. And she's like, what is that going to do to me? And I'm like, Mom, it's going to be fine. It's going to be good for you. You're in a lot of pain. And when the woman came to do her Reiki for her, it was a nun. It's so
what?
appropriate for my mom. So, yes, it was a nun. It was Sister Mary that did my mother's Reiki, which I thought for my mother, it was perfect because her fears about, it being woo woo or
Right.
whatever, they were gone because it's a nun. So I think it's really fantastic that your father embraced it and that he gave that gift to you. That's lovely. It's really lovely. I think we can use all the help we can
Right.
get in this life, to be honest with you. So I'm like,
Yeah, when I was growing up, it
so
wasn't
thank you
so
for sharing.
awesome because I had the crazy dad, right? But now I'm like, yeah,
Oh,
I am the crazy daughter.
yeah, okay. It's
It's a
completely
lot of fun.
okay. Now, I want to ask you because you mentioned this just a moment ago, but you say that you're an intuitive brand builder.
Yes.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit more about what is that?
I love that. So the reason why I call myself an intuitive brand builder is because I'm a graphic designer by trade. So that's what I went to school for. However, your intuition, I mean, you have it in you, right? And so throughout the years, I realized that building a brand or creating a brand requires more than making a beautiful logo. And so I really
I agree.
utilized all the tools that I've learned throughout my own personal healing to really extract information for my clients in a way that, not like I don't put them through therapy, right? But I really ask them, I want to make that clear, but I really ask them very clear, deep questions about themselves so we can determine truly who they are. And then that allows us to build a beautiful brand that is them. Because I went through it. I Clients would hire me to build a logo or to build whatever, and they had an idea in their head, and then I would literally create that, and then they'd be like, "Oh, no, it doesn't work." Or they would like it for a minute, and then 2 years later, they would call me again, like, "Okay, it's time to rebrand," or something it doesn't work anymore because we really didn't go through the deep exploration of who they are. And the intuitive part comes from the sense that I'm an empath, and so I feel what people feel. And when I sit down with my clients, that allows me to really, sometimes I'm like, no, you're nervous. Why are you anxious about this question? Or, let's go deeper because I know that there's another answer. So that's where the intuitive brand builder comes, because I really take the branding process in a much deeper, powerful way, I think.
That is fantastic because what I hear you're saying that you're doing is instead of following very strict business processes, best practices, you're actually listening to your own intuition and trying to find authenticity with your clients, which is really fantastic that you're
Yeah,
doing
you
that.
explained it in 2 words.
Pardon me?
You explained it much faster than me, but yes, that's exactly what it is.
That's fantastic that you're doing that. It's really lovely. I know that when I was like with my own logo and the name of my name of my business, easy, easy, but my logo, I called a dear friend who's also a graphic designer and said, "Okay, I'm ready. Can you put me in touch with somebody?" And she's like, "No, I'm doing it. Nobody can do this but me." And when she designed it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so perfect." And for me, the Rose in Mole Mama, that was my mother's name, was
Mm.
Rose. And so she just captured it, and like the color of it, my logo is the color of my mother's mole.
Mm.
So yeah, so she just so anyway, you remind me of her. So, I was like, oh, okay, I
Yeah,
get you.
and she knew
That's
you,
lovely.
right? She knew the
She
story
knew me.
and
She knew me.
mhm.
Yes. Okay, so now let's go back to your podcast because you've been doing this a while. You're really a voice for good and a voice for elevating people. So, can you tell our listeners, because you have so many episodes, what are some of your most popular episodes?
Whew, it really depends. So my most popular episode right now, and that changes, which is really interesting. I think I don't know because I check that constantly, and I'm like, okay, what are people listening to, right? So right now, the my pleasure episode is yeah,
Oh,
I know,
okay.
right? I'm like, okay, people, I see you. So the one most listened episode right now is Reclaiming Your Pleasure. So it's episode 125. Then I have
Okay.
Sulema, who's the Latina medium. She's a medium. It's episode 124. That one, people are loving it because she's awesome, and we talk about media. She really breaks down what mediumship is and the differences between a psychic and a medium, and a psychic medium, and so that's very, yeah,
Wow.
she really breaks that down. Then Rewriting Your Story is another one that's popular, and Radical Acceptance with Crystals of Altamira is another one that's really popular. And one thing that I notice is that people really love my solo episodes because all my podcast is an interview based podcast, but sometimes every now and then I do some solo episodes and people really love those. So I'm gonna start probably doing more of those. I don't know. So yeah,
Okay. All right. That's super helpful because I know I've checked out the radical
yes. See,
acceptance one.
everyone is loving that one,
Yeah.
and Leah is
Mm-hmm.
oh, she's amazing.
Okay. Okay. So now you have your own business, you have your own podcast, your own branding. What has been some of the biggest surprises about having a podcast and having your business?
Believing in it, I think
Oh,
when people ask me, "How did you do it?" or "How do I do it?" or what should I do?" I would say believe in your business because I had a lot of doubts and oh my gosh. I mean, for a long time, I didn't believe in the podcast. I didn't believe my podcast was good enough, and that's part of my procrastination. But because self integrity is one of my top core values, I'm like, okay, I committed to this. I have to do it. And, but there was this like big part of me that didn't believe that the podcast was good enough. I, I don't know what. It's just a limited belief that I had to work through. And it wasn't until I started truly believing in the message, and I started truly believing in the purpose of why I'm doing this is really that the podcast, I mean, I took it serious, so everyone else took it serious. But it wasn't until I believed in it.
that is really powerful advice, Pam. Because I know that I too, you struggle. You're working really hard. You're like, yeah, is it
Mm,
really good enough? And who wants to listen to this? And other than
right.
me, I love it.
I know.
But
Fun
well,
to do.
so, you know. Oh, thank you for sharing that with our listeners. That's really wonderful advice and something that I'm going to really look at for
Of
myself. So
course,
thank you.
anytime.
So, what has been some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Myself, I think. I really think because procrastination is fear, right? And so
Yes.
I I mean, I had a lot of fears that were deep down in my soul. It wasn't like I could sit here and tell you, "Oh, it's because I had fear of success," because I had no idea what the fear was. I just knew that I wasn't doing it or that I was procrastinating on doing whatever. So, I would say one of the biggest challenges would be myself, really like getting over my head. And I mean, that's the biggest one because once I get over my head and I start believing in myself and the power that I have and that I can really truly impact people and make the world a better place, whatever else doesn't matter because you can just push through.
Okay, clearly I was supposed to interview you so I could get those two messages for myself. So thank you. Because I'm like, yeah, oh gosh, she's right. That's me. That's exactly my biggest problem is me
Well, I'm glad.
and the gremlins in my
It really, I
head.
mean,
So
it's crazy when like sometimes I practice EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, and because now I have the awareness, I can catch myself like, okay, yes, you're doing a task that is due in 3 days. Why are you not doing the task that's due tomorrow? And then I tap on it or I meditate on it. Even the simple fact of sitting in silence for 5 minutes and really allowing your mind to clear, then I can really go deep and say, okay, it's because I know this is going to impact something and it could be good. So that's why I'm not doing it because I'm afraid of the exposure. I'm afraid of maybe the imposter syndrome comes in, of whatever, right? But awareness is super important.
oh, but it sounds like you're doing some really good work to get beyond it. So really
I
good
mean,
work. So
healing's been
okay,
a lot of fun.
yeah. So, what advice do you have for our listeners who are thinking about owning their own business, or like myself that already have one? So,
I would say, I would say, go within and really think about why you started what you started. Because everyone who starts their own business is because they are trying to solve a problem that at some point they had, one, or two, they saw an opportunity from a problem that they once had, or somebody else they saw had, right? Or
mhm.
something deeper. For example, more like the roast and your mom and all of that has a lot of sentiment behind why you started it. When people say, oh, like for example, you could tell me it's a food blog, but really why? Because you wanted to remember the smells and the hear and see the food and feel it in your fingers, and that reminded you of the times with your mother. So really understanding why you do what you do and then believing that it's powerful, whatever it is that you chose your business to be. That's it. Believing in it, I think.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put a big sign in my office that says believe, 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 believe. That's beautiful. Thank you. Okay. And I got to ask you, what's your big dreams for your business?
Oh my gosh. I think my big dreams for my business is to build a business that gives me the freedom to continue to serve people. Because right now I'm in a chapter in my business where I'm doing a lot of work in the business, but my goal is to build the business so it's kind of self-contained. It can work without me so I can go out and serve more people. I love meeting my listeners. I love showing up in events. I love teaching, but that's not necessarily how I'm going to eat and how I'm going to, survive and get the freedom that I want so I can live this life that I want to live. And so, yeah, my big dream is to build that business that is self-sustained so I can be free to serve others.
How lovely. Absolutely lovely. Okay, is there anything else that you want to share? It's been so amazing to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been fun. No, I think I just want to remind people to stay shining despite what's happening. I know sometimes it's hard, but really positive, Pam. Look at the bright side, and look at the possibilities and look at the lessons that whatever chapter right now you're in, it's a lesson that can only propel you to be better. And there's always, the sun always comes out. The sun always comes out. Even if you're having a cloudy day, tomorrow it could be better. And keeping that positive attitude. I know it's hard. I know. People tell me all the time, life is not so positive all the time, but believing that it is.
Yes, and I think that's really powerful. And somebody a long time ago told me it's like if you're in a storm, there's a rainbow. The
Mm-hmm.
rainbow is coming. And that's something I always, when things are having really tough times, like, oh, that's right, I've got a rainbow. It's going to be here soon.
Yes,
So,
totally. And I recently, at one of my recent episodes, I did a really hard climb on a mountain, a hike. And my lesson there, one of my mentors on the hike, she said, because I had terrible blisters, maybe you can listen to the episode. I walk you through the whole process. But at the end, she was like, well, the butterfly that suffers the most to go through her cocoon before she becomes a butterfly is the strongest.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful. Okay. It has been amazing to talk to you, woman. Please keep shining ever so brightly. We so need you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for listening to our episode. And please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. Remember to add the most important ingredient to every recipe you make, your love. And as my mama always said to me as we said our goodbyes, que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you. Thank you for tuning in to Molly Mama Cooking with Love.